Hello, and welcome to Non Sequitur News. Today is June 22nd, 2024. It's Season 3, Episode 174. I am Mayor Watt. The sentient AI will be on stream later. Not in today's ohmTown, well, not in today's Non Sequitur News, but in other ohmTown news. Yes, they will be here. Anyway, today we are going to be talking about millions in ransom to release dealerships, Starliner stuck in space for now, Paris too polluted for Olympics, $1,500 a month for live workspace, fighting over Fiskers Assets, called it, forced to remove 500,000 books, the Monolith Sightings timeline, Tanzanian butterfly forest in Italian museum, ice cream recall, and help for sleep apnea. That and more, powered by ohmTown.com. Hello everybody, I am Mayor Watt. I run ohmTown. I put it together to manage my information overload, and since then I've made it available to the public. You can go over there, become a citizen of ohmTown. It has 6 main categories and then 50 channels in which news, headlines, and a small snippet gets aggregated so that I can manage my information overload. I've been using it for about a decade, only available to the public for the last 2.5 years. Let's get into today's articles. The very first one's over in 4-wheel tech. CDK global hackers demand tens of millions of dollars in ransom to end dealership outage, according to a report. CDK is planning to make the payment. A source with knowledge of the situation told Bloomberg, and the hacking group behind the attack is believed to be based in Eastern Europe. Kind of a no-shit news. Craig Trudell over at automotivenews.com, or autonews.com, actually. It's just, they go by automotive news on their site, but their website is autonews.com. I guess it's weird. Since CDK discovered the breach and shut off systems in on June 19th, chaos has ensued at many of the roughly 15,000 car dealerships that it counts as clients. CDK's core product, a suite of software tools referred to as a dealership management system, or DMS, underpins virtually every element of auto retailers' day-to-day business. So the outage hampered sales, interrupted repairs, and delayed deliveries across an industry that's topped $1.2 trillion in the United States sales last year. The disruptions are also hitting amid an end-of-quarter sales push. Quote by Diana Lee, the CEO of Constellation, "It's just mass chaos at this point," a marketing agency that works with auto dealerships across the U.S. said on Bloomberg television. There's more over at this article, but essentially it's a proprietary software as a service type situation. It appears that they hacked CDK Global, the software provider, to thousands of car dealerships in North America, and they've demanded tens of millions of dollars in ransom. It's not unheard of for a 0-day to get exploited, and it's actually known for about 18 months prior to somebody being informed or it being exploited to the point where somebody has to do something about it. And you can sort of tell when somebody has exploited your systems if you have the right setup. Something comes across as kind of out of alignment. If you hire somebody, an external penetration tester, to come in and look at your organization, you try physical and remote penetration tests. And sometimes you can find it, but sometimes once they're in, they act just like everybody else that's in your system, and you would have to do forensic analysis of logs to detect them, which isn't necessarily possible. Even CDK Global, it isn't beyond the pale that they just didn't know that somebody was in their systems. mainly because they weren't a threat until they had gathered enough information or perpetrated some attack. But that ransomware, where it's malware that's on your system, encrypting data and locking things down, that should never have happened. If you're a single person running, ohmTown.com, I can see how that can happen. You don't have a robust set of tools that's so spectacular that you can't be compromised on the site. Maybe something can slip through. But when you're touting $1.2 trillion in sales last year, the industry, I think that maybe you should be spending some of your millions protecting your system, or at least making it so that you can mitigate the damage. This actually seems to have impacted 15,000 car dealerships that it counts as clients, but why was everything so compromised, and why can't continuity of operations be returned? If you're worried about getting your data back, if you pay the millions, you still don't know if they're in your system. That's a shame. So, I don't know. CDK Global, you want to come and talk? Yeah, you know how to get in touch with me. All right. The next article is over in Reality Hacker. Starliner's return to Earth delayed again until next month. The Boeing Starliner, which is currently docked at the International Space Station, will not be returning to Earth with its crew this week as planned. They say in the article until next month, but that's a week away. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I knew that this was a problem before it even launched, because it seemed like every time they looked at it, there was something leaking or frozen, or it just wasn't right. It just wasn't right. And I called it before, like the very first time it was on the pad. Second time it was on the pad, I said it shouldn't return. They launch it, and lo and behold, it shits the bed. Yeah, this is going to pose a problem. It shouldn't be leaking like this. They say that it's got ample helium to do what it needs to do, but it's not about the helium. It's about the fact that it's a sieve. But I'm not a aerospace engineer by any stretch. I'm sure they know the math, but the way that I saw it was it should not have gone into space. So Georgina Torbet, or Torbay, I'm not sure how they pronounce her last name, over at digitaltrends.com put the article together. And when you look at this thing, it looks like it's covered in Play-Doh, I swear. Maybe it is Play-Doh. The return of the Starliner has already been delayed once, but now NASA has announced that the return will not take place until early July. It launched from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida on June 6th and made it safely to the ISS, carrying NASA astronauts Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore. However, there were problems with helium leaks both before and during the journey, as well as an issue with the spacecraft's reaction control thrusters that required 2 attempts at docking. Now, we're taking our time and following our standard mission management team process. We are letting the data drive our decision-making relative to managing the small helium. It's all this mitigation and trying to step it down. They know... whatever. NASA's not yet announced a specific date for the planned return. The rest of this article is very informative about who did what, where, when. They said that they're not pressed for time. Crew's feedback has been overwhelmingly positive, and they know every bit of learning we do on the crew flight test will improve and sharpen our experience for future crews. Yeah, I don't know. Leaking helium is probably not one of the things that should have ever even freaking happened. All right, let's keep going though. But before I go there, you can type in !NSN for non sequitur news in the chat, and it will post all of the articles that we are going to be talking about today. We are about to talk about the third one. But you can also type in !pod, and that will give you all of the podcasts. There are 7 of them total. Non Sequitur News, Reality Hacker, Wanted, Warcrafters, The Continuity Report, Technology Today, and 4 Wheel Tech. We have 4 shows on Saturday and then 4 shows on Sunday. And then the daily show is Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then like today, Non Sequitur News, Monday through Friday is at 8 p.m. And then today it's at 5 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow it'll be at 5 p.m. Eastern as well. So yeah, we've got a lot of shows and they're all podcasts. So you can go over to wherever you catch pods and do a search for the ohmTown channel. Just do a search for ohmTown and it'll be there. And download all of them, all 7 of them. That would be great. And then leave reviews. I call Non Sequitur News because, well, we jump around in the article, in the show. The first one was about hackers. The second one was about the Starliner being perpetually docked. Maybe perpetually docked. We don't know. And then the Seine. So the Seine River in Paris, still too polluted for Olympic events as opening ceremonies loom. Seine River is too polluted for swimming events at the Paris Olympics. City officials said Paris invested $1.5 billion to clean the Seine. Having heavy rainfall increase the pollution levels. I don't know how that works, but okay. I know runoff. Seine's been off limits for swimming since 1923 due to severe pollution. It has been off limits since 1923. Despite massive cleanup efforts, Paris's Seine River remains too polluted to host swimming events for the upcoming Olympic Games. Dun, dun, dun. The article is actually over at Business Insider. Rebecca Roman put the article together. And that's pretty brutal. That can't be right then. I mean, they're showing a picture of somebody swimming in it. But it says it's been, they're swimming in something. I don't even know what that river is right there, but it's been off limits since 1923 due to severe pollution. So samples taken from the river show that E. coli levels were above the recommended limit for 4 different sites for nearly the entire week of June 10th through June 16th per Le Monde with AFP. I'm not sure what the with AFP is. Samples from the Seine do not meet the standards we will have this summer. Wow. Yeah, so it says that water quality remains degraded due to rain, high flow, little sunshine, and temperatures below seasonal norms. That's always interesting to find out. Below normal levels, huh? Temperatures below seasonal norms. Last year, triathletes took part in a test event in the Seine with some airing concerns about their safety. Norwegian Olympic gold medalist Christian Blumenfeld said, quote, "I always dive with open mouth. It's not going to be funny if I wake up tomorrow morning with whatever," per ESPN. Nonetheless, Guillaume said he was confident that swimming events would go ahead as planned. So they're set to kick off July 26th, the 2024 Olympic Games. The overall economic impact of the Olympic Games on the Paris region could range from 6.7 billion euros to 11.1 billion euros, or around 7.1 billion to 11.8 billion dollars, according to a study published by the Center for Law and Economics of Sport. There's always more at the article, so please follow the links that are in the chat and in the show notes later. Over to the sites that we talk about here in ohmTown. This show in particular is called Non Sequitur News. Again, this is why I named it this, because we're moving on to another article. This one's in the Hatch Ideas channel, which is all about business transformation, intellectual property in the business context, not necessarily in the pure intellectual property way. I have a different shows for different things. So we have Right Protect for another context of intellectual property, and other shows for each of these kind of niche domains that I am particularly interested in, and I hope that you are too. I do have 3 more that I'm going to be adding to the show, or I should say to ohmTown.com. Right now there are 47 of 50 channels that I'm hoping to bring to ohmTown, and over on Twitch and YouTube and the podcast and Discord and Patreon and TikTok and wherever else. Kind of expanding my horizons. This next article, though, over in Hatch Ideas is 25-year-old pays $1,472 per month to live, work, for a live-work space in the first car-free neighborhood in the U.S. Let's take a look inside at Cul-de-sac in Tempe, Arizona. Jada Stratman was able to find a 1-bedroom apartment and retail space to house her candle business. And let's take a look. So Celia Fernandez over at CNBC.com, in a section they call Make It, put this article together. So I'm trying to figure out, hopefully they have pictures. Oh, this is interesting. Okay. So it's the first car-free neighborhood built from scratch in the U.S. Ryan Johnson, CEO of Cul-de-sac, tells CNBC Make It. Cars are not allowed on the cul-de-sac streets, and residents can't park their own vehicles on site. Residents are offered discounts on transportation services like Waymo, a self-driving car. Our communities prioritize biking, walking, and transit over cars and parking. The community, located in Tempe, Arizona, has 180 residents with plans to grow to over 1,000. Apartments there range from studios to 3-bedroom units, and prices start at around $1,400 a month. And I just don't want to rent. If you have to rent, then rent. I know that it's really expensive, but you have zero equity. The moment that you're renting, you're paying somebody else's freaking mortgage. And it's almost like it's a plan, keep you marginalized as much as possible. Supply and demand, but the people who provide the supply are the ones that reap the profits of that demand. And if it's constrained, and believe me, they constrain it all to hell. So for instance, the mayoral mansion could have got another lot, but didn't, because they wouldn't release it until other lots were sold. And then they could reprice based on the new demand, but they could have started building on the one that Mayor Watt wanted. And this takes place everywhere when you go to buy a house. Apartments are even worse because you don't have to have as much of a down payment on an apartment, but guess who's in charge of setting up the prices? The people who own that property, and if the demand is high enough, they can jack the price up all they want. Somebody will, they're already making enough money to pay the mortgage on the units. So anyway, that's not what this is all about. This is all about a live work space where you can live in one location and work in the other. The Bright Candle Company shop is housed up front, and Stratman's bedroom and living spaces are in the back. The unit features a walk-in closet and a washer and a dryer. Those are the features. And yet it's a 1-bedroom, and they're still paying $1,500 a month, and an additional $140 for utilities, and then upfront costs include a $1,000 deposit. They say, though car-free, cul-de-sac still has parking spaces for visitors and the residents who need them, but this is a destination. People have to come to this location for this to work. So whoever is living in here, wherein they can actually provide the shop, basically has to be compatible with the work-life balance, right? So if all of these businesses fail to attract customers, it's not going to work. It's interesting, right? Jada Stratman, 25, was searching for retail space for her candle business. That's when she found Cul-de-sac. It's neat. There's a video here, by the way. It's a 7-minute long video. I won't play it, but you can go and check it out and let me know what you think. I kind of dig this. When I was in another location, I wanted to buy a house where I could actually run the business. in one level, and then you live in the level above, actually 2 levels above, but the ended up relocating altogether. But I love the idea of a live work space. And it's similar to what people are doing today, where they're working from home and they just have some designated area in their house or apartment to work from. It's the smart thing to do, folks. Okay, the next article is over in Late Night Geeks. The fight over Fiskers Assets is already heating up. Fiskers just a few days into its Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and the fight over its assets are already steaming. Assets are already charged with one lawyer claiming the startup has been liquidating assets outside the court's supervision. At issue is the relationship between Fisker and its largest secured lender, Heights Capital Management. The article is over at TechCrunch.com by Sean O'Kane. And I've always dug their designs. I've said this before. I like Fisker's designs. Even the original Fisker's designs have been interesting to me. So, Heights loaned, and the Heights Capital Management is the major lender, an affiliate of financial services company Susquehanna International Group. Heights loaned Fisker more than $500 million in 2023 with the option to convert the debt to stock in the startup at a time when the company's financial distress was looming behind the scenes. That funding was not originally secured by any assets. Oh, ouch. So that's pretty brutal. Heights not only gained pole position to determine what happens to the assets in the Chapter 11 proceedings, but also gave them the chance to tap a preferred restructuring officer to oversee the company's slow descent into bankruptcy, basically mitigate the losses. Alex Lees, a lawyer from the firm Milbank, who represents a group of unsecured creditors owed more than $600 million, said in the proceedings' first hearing on Friday in Delaware Bankruptcy Court that it took too long to get to this point. He said Fisker's tardy regulatory filing was a minor technical default that somehow led to the startup basically handing the whole business over to Heights. Yeah. So this seems like a multi-party negotiation that should have taken place was arbitrarily, not unilaterally decided to shift ownership over to Heights, but maybe there's some stuff going on that I don't know about. I mean, not maybe. There, I guarantee you it is. Scott Griezmann, a lawyer, or Greisman, a lawyer representing the investment arm of Heights, said Lee's comments were completely inappropriate, completely unsupported, and derided them as designed as sound bites meant to be picked up by the media. I don't know, if a group comes on board with, or if unsecured debt is sitting there for $600 million and one organization comes along with over $500 million, as it is collapsing and suddenly everybody else, all of these other unsecured creditors, are basically left holding an empty bag. Yeah, I think maybe there is a problem here. There's a lot more to this article. Lawyers told the court Friday that they have an agreement in principle to sell those Ocean SUVs to an unnamed vehicle leasing company, but it's not immediately clear what other assets Fisker could sell in order to provide returns for other creditors. I think that I would not buy an Ocean SUV. I wouldn't buy an Ocean anything. I mean, maybe if it was $50, but there's no warranty, there's no repair scenario. The parts are proprietary to some degree. All of the electronics, software is shit. Anyway, Lees was not alone in his concern over how Fisker wound up filing for bankruptcy. Quote, "I don't know why it took this long," and they reiterate some of this stuff. Yeah, there was a problem, and some people knew about it. Insiders knew, but people weren't talking. So, hot mess it is. Let's keep going. The next article is over in the Word and Law. Internet Archive forced to remove 500,000 books after publisher's court win. Yeah, I mean, if it's a verbatim display of the books, then that's kind of how copyright works. Not kind of, it is how copyright works. if it's pure informational, then I don't really care. But if it's actually books, the real problem here is that many books are out of print and arbitrarily held off from being distributed via something like the Internet Archive. And it just sucks that's how it's working. And the only way that you can get some of the information would be having to pay an extraordinary cost because there's somebody there that wants to do arbitrage pricing. As a result of book publishers successfully suing the Internet Archive last year, the free online library that strives to keep growing online access to books recently shrank by about 500,000 titles. The IA reported, the Internet Archive reported in a blog post this month that publishers abruptly forcing these takedowns triggered a devastating loss for readers who depend on Internet Archive to access books that are otherwise impossible or difficult to access. One second. Sorry, folks. I'm doing it live. So let's go over to Ars Technica. Ashley Bellinger put the article together. The deck statement says Internet Archive fans beg publishers to stop emptying the open library. But if these people don't want their books published without compensation, then so be it. Stop. If it is verbatim, if it's an AI that has acquired, that the book was paid for, it's been aggregated and recontextualized, then I don't really care. But because information is information. If it's printing it all out verbatim and has the artwork and all of that kind of stuff, then it becomes a problem. But anyway, to restore access, Internet Archive is now appealing, hoping to reverse the prior court's decision by convincing the U.S. Court of Appeals in the second court that IA's controlled digital lending of its physical books should be considered fair use under copyright law. In April, court filing showed that IA intends to argue that the publishers have no evidence that the ebook market has been harmed by the open library's lending, and copyright law is better served by allowing IA lending than by preventing it. And so if that's how it actually is, if they have physical books, but they've scanned them in and they lend them out in a 1-to-1 ratio to the physical print, again, I have no problem with that, mainly because I don't think that I should have to buy the software in every single platform that I buy a piece of software. I mean, like seats being limited. I have a piece of software, for instance, that I bought 7 years ago. I've installed it in 3 places. I'm only allowed 2 more installations, not active seats, but installations. So if I go and install it somewhere, it's kind of like the Unity thing, where if you install it, you have to pay a bounty to Unity because it pings back home. I think it's Unity. It's the thing that basically everybody got pissed off about. Anyway, it says our position is straightforward. We just want to let our library patrons borrow and read the books that we own like any other library. It's just not in the format that the publisher wants the books consumed, which is the physical print 1-to-1. But if they're loaning it out digitally and on the 1-to-1 ratio, then I think that should be fine. As long as it's 1-to-1, I don't care. It shouldn't be a problem. But it is for those right holders, and so that's how it ends up being a problem. After the publisher won the injunction stopping IA's digital lending, which, quote, limits what we can do with our digitized books, they're digitized, but they're not. That isn't the license that you acquired when you purchased the book, right? But I'm on your side, so don't argue with me about it. I think that if you scan the book, then loan it out digitally, I think it's fine. Just like I think that it should be fine for you to grab a CD that you purchase and listen to it digitally without having to buy multiple copies, which I've done because you aren't right now. The rules are you can't just make a copy of it. Some people will argue that you can make personal copies, but no. In an open letter to publishers signed by nearly 19,000 supporters, IA fans begged publishers to reconsider forcing takedowns and quickly restore access to the lost books. The problem here is that the copyright won't be genericided like a trademark. So it's not like the selective allowance of sharing these books in digital format in a 1-to-1 ratio with the physical product would make a difference. That's not how it works. The way that it works is I can choose. If I have a product and it's in physical form and somebody decides to digitize my work, and then from there, pardon me, I'm trying to do something while I'm arguing about this, and then they recontextualize it onto the screen. If it's 1-to-1 with something that they've paid for, then fine. Otherwise, we have a problem because then you're preventing sales. But if the work was purchased, then so be it. And I can choose who I allow to violate the copyright. I'm the owner of my work. So if somebody comes along and says, hey, I'm using your artwork, I can say no. I don't want you to. Everybody else can, but not you. Now, if you display my work and you discuss it at length and point to the storefront for my artwork or my written work or my products or services, whatever it is, and you either poo-poo it or not, then fine. It's constructive. Well, it's criticism. It's public discourse, and I have no problem with that. But I do have a problem with multiple copies of a single work distributed willy-nilly. You're literally taking food off the plate. But let's keep going. They talk about Internet Archive's fair use defense, but their fair use is this nebulous bullshit construct that it's very dangerous to sit there and go fair use. It says the record is replete with examples of IA facilitating access to books needed for classroom use and academic research that have not been possible otherwise or would have not been possible otherwise. For IA's digital lending to be considered fair use, the brief said the court must balance all factors favoring a ruling of fair use, including weighing IA's use is non-commercial, serves important library missions long recognized by Congress, and causes no market harm. Well, no market harm is arguable. We don't know the non-use of it. If it forces people to actually compromise elsewhere to buy a book, then IA's actions harm the market. It being non-commercial doesn't mean jack shit. You can't arbitrarily take somebody's work and use it even in academic circles. At least not en masse, in very concise, narrow band. Yeah. But you still can't just take everything that you want. If you're doing research or otherwise, you can't just take what you want. That's not how it works. All right, let's keep going though. The next article is over in Non Sequitur News. What are Monolith's timeline of mysterious columns around the world? Let me make sure I said something. Yeah, I did tell the name. Okay, anyway, the next article is over in Non Sequitur News. That's a channel over at ohmTown.com. And the name of the show, I know, it's in the name. Monoliths are believed to stem from Arthur C. Clarke's Space Odyssey series and Stanley Kubrick's 1668 famed sci-fi. 1668. It's been around for a while. 2001, A Space Odyssey. So Leah Sarnoff over at abcnews.go.com put the article together, and it really... So there's a video, and it actually talks about mysterious monolith reappears in Las Vegas. The monolith was last seen in Las Vegas on Fremont Street in December 2020, and it returned. We talked about it a couple of days ago. Reminiscent to the prehistoric Stonehenge in Wiltshire, England, but rooted in millennium-era fictional lore, monoliths are long vertical metal slabs, each approximately 10 to 12 feet tall. These, the ones that we've been seeing, are actually mirror shiny. Like, it's a trip. These things are, and they're just plopped down somewhere. The scores of monoliths that have appeared around the world since 2020 look slightly different than those from Clark and Kubrick, opting for a metal, often stainless steel structure. The monolith from 2001 was a solid black, non-reflective, devoid of everything, and then another one appears in space outside Europa. Anyway, from Utah in the United States, Wales in the United Kingdom, and as far as Romania and southeastern Europe, these often unexplained structures have left officials and internet sleuths questioning their makers and intentions. So they first saw it in Utah. There it is. What a trip, man. Yeah. So it's this shiny metal object that was sitting inside kind of like an alcove of what do you call it, at the bottom of a wash where the water kind of trickles through between an outcropping of rock and yeah. I don't know how to describe this, but there was basically a small cliff face kind of a thing behind it, and it was just sitting there. Ta-da! Says the crew members discovered the metal monolith installed in the ground in a remote area of Red Rock, according to the release. 10 days later, the monolith disappeared, with officials saying it was removed by an unknown party. Quote, "We have received credible reports that the illegally installed structure, referred to as the monolith, has been removed by an unknown party," the Utah Bureau of Land Management wrote on the website known as Twitter on November 28th, 2020. A man named Andy Lewis later took credit for the removal, sharing a YouTube video of him and a small crew detaching the monolith from the rocks. Let's see. "We removed the Utah monolith because there are clear precedents for how we share and standardize the use of our public lands, natural wildlife, native plants, freshwater sources, human impacts upon them," Lewis said in an interview at the time. So now I'm really curious what happened to that monolith. Just as the monolith was removed from its location in Utah, another monolith was discovered across the world in Romania. This is November 27th, a month later. Right? Oh no, just 9 days later. Won't go into all of the detail, but then on December 2nd, another one in California appeared. Stadium Park Hillside in Atascadero, California, and then various locations in December 2020, March 2024, and June 17th in Las Vegas. And it is shiny. So in the photos, tall geometric figure reflects the rocky desert and perfectly aligns with the horizon. Not sure what that means. Perfectly aligns with the horizon. The monolith was removed by Las Vegas police on June 20th, saying it was necessary due to public safety and environmental concerns. Well, I think the environmental concerns are bullshit, but they probably just didn't want attention to this spot. It says a similar monolith appeared in downtown Las Vegas in December 2020, standing under the Fremont Street Experience canopy, which is this really neat LED. It's kind of like the Sphere, but lower resolution. Let's keep going though. The next article is over in the Marble Channel. Italian museum recreates Tanzanian butterfly forest to raise awareness on biodiversity. Let me pull something up real quick. Okay. An Italian science museum has recreated the butterfly forest inside a tropical mountain greenhouse in the city of Trento. So the AP put the article together. Carlos Marithi, Luca Bruno, and Sarah Lemlem put the article together. This is the butterfly forest in the tropical mountain greenhouse in Trento, Italy, a project by the Museo della Scienze, or MUSE, M-U-S-E, an Italian science museum. It's modeled on the Udzungwa Mountains, a mountain range and rainforest area in south central Tanzania. That's one of the world's biodiversity hotspots. The butterfly forest features plant species endemic to the region, as well as birds, reptiles, amphibians, fish, and invertebrates from different parts of the world, all inside 600 square meters, about 6,400 square feet of forest with cliffs, inclinations, and a waterfall. Pretty neat. I love this kind of stuff. It's really fun to go into them and bear witness to nature, more protected from the outside, other than internal predators. Some animal might eat a butterfly or something like that. So sometimes they're so well managed that there's the circle of life within this thing. And just like this picture here shows, butterflies that are in their chrysalises or chrysali, I don't know which one, chrysalises, and about to pop out again as a butterfly, and ta-da, there you go. So yeah, it facilitates food production and supply. They're pollinators, they're food for birds and other animals. Yeah, it's pretty neat to witness these things. Although sometimes you become part of, let's just say you can sometimes be a statue. If you want to have a monitoring of the health of the ecosystem, monitoring such indigenous and endemic insect population diversity is very critical, so that we have an idea whether the ecosystem is still healthy or not. Ta-da. Yeah, and you should support these kind of things. It's actually pretty expensive and laborious. It takes a considerable amount of time to set it all up. And so if they're ever asking for funds, donate a little bit, because a little bit helps. Let's keep going. The next article is probably as disastrous as running out of coffee, at least for me. It's in the non sequitur news. Ice cream recall as warning issued to customers. Wegmans said that the frozen dessert was recalled due to possible contamination with listeria. And Caitlin Lewis over at Newsweek.com put the article together. Supermarket chain Wegmans has announced a recall of 4 flavors of Abelin's frozen bakery ice cream cakes over risk that the desserts could be contaminated with listeria. According to an announcement, the ice cream cakes were sold at Wegmans locations and marked with a best buy date from April 20th, 2024 to April 20th, 2025. They're frozen, so... The company has over 110 grocery stores across 8 states, so Delaware, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. There's also one in D.C. The presence of possible contamination on the production line that was used to produce the desserts. So as delicious as they are, they could make you very sick. So if you have these, check the best buy date. And so April 20th, 2024 through to April 20th, 2025. Again, they're frozen, so leave them in their containers, return them to the store whenever. Now, the recalled flavors and their UPC codes can be found below, so follow the link through ohmTown and you'll be able to check it out for yourself. The statement said the desserts come in 30 and 60-ounce containers. They were also sold at Whole Foods, Market Basket, Hannaford, Weiss Market, Roche Brothers, Big Y, Dave's Fresh Marketplace, Giant Foods, Safeway stores across the country. But I don't know if all of them are still in question. because it says the bakery said in its statement that the desserts came in 30 and 60 ounce containers, but Wegmans is the only one that is promoting caution. It looks like it says, we're so sorry for the actual bakery that produced it says that we are so sorry to cause any alarm or concern to you, our loyal customers, reads the bakery statement. Please know that none of our product that we know of has ever tested positive for any contaminants. We're devastated that this has happened. We're praying that our small family business will be able to weather this storm, and thank you all for your continued support. And then they talk about the impact of listeria. So if you're immunocompromised, then out of an abundance of caution, I wouldn't bother cracking this thing open to test the waters of your listeria resistance. And if you are healthy, you're going to get the shock of your life when you fall ill to this. Anyway, let's keep going. The last article for today's non sequitur news is in the Mobile Channel. Weight loss drug could help treat sleep apnea. So tirzepatide, the medicine found in the drug Zepbound, and the obesity drug Mounjaro, which Zepbound basically is an obesity drug as well. They both have an effect on blood sugar and diabetes and change your metabolism so that you lose weight. But at any rate, tirzepatide apparently also has the ability to reduce the severity of sleep apnea, a disorder that causes breathing to be interrupted while you're sleeping, among other measures in patients who had obesity and took the medication for a year. The people who take Zepbound also lose a considerable amount of weight in a short amount of time, and it impacts cholesterol level and blood sugar level and other impactors on your heart. So it's in extremely high demand, and Eli Lilly is just now recovering from the burden of this. But I think it's a really fascinating, almost a wonder drug in just how much of a positive impact it has on people's lives, at least for now. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. Maybe they're going to find out that everybody's starting to grow a tail. But suffice it to say, the people who are taking Zepbound and Mounjaro are over the moon happy with the fact that they're losing a tremendous amount of weight. And it's a scale. It starts at 2.5 milligrams and goes all the way up to 15. Now they're trying to make it into a pill. So that fundamental research is underway right now to try and convert it from an injector pen into a pill so that it's even cheaper and faster to produce and less a burden, because there's glass vials floating around. Everybody who's taking these things, they take one a week, inject it into their body, and then they have to take the injectors to a sharp spin and get it out of there. So anyway, it's all glass, so it kind of sucks, and it's very expensive. And it becomes bio waste, so it doesn't just go into a landfill. Well, it's not supposed to. This is the injector. So Lauren Irwin over at thehill.com put the article together. The study published Friday at the in the New England Journal of Medicine was conducted in 2 controlled trials involving adults with moderate to severe obstructive sleep apnea and obesity. The study found that tirzepatide reduced the apnea, hypopnea index, body weight, blood pressure, improved sleep, among other things. It is tremendous. There's so much more that this impacts, but patients who took the drug had their number of sleep apnea episodes reduced by about half to nearly 60%, compared to just 10% who received a placebo. And those could actually be, that's probably within the margin of error, in that depending on the way that you're sleeping and the atmosphere, it could fall in that 10% placebo. So Eli Lilly and Co. is the drug maker and paid for the research, the Associated Press reported. So that's one of the things that I look for when I'm researching stuff, like who it is that funded something and just what the outcome is. But this is actually, as far as I understand it, there's additional research that has been done that hints at the sleep apnea reduction. And my understanding is that it's primarily because you're losing weight, lowering blood pressure, lowering blood sugar. Cholesterol is also impacted in a positive way. And then people have held off the weight for years afterward. So again, I think that this is pretty much a wonder drug particularly for Americans, who we are overweight as a general population, the United States. So off you go. Time to go and sign up for more Manjaro. Okay, folks, that is it for the ohmTown non sequitur news is what it's called. Non sequitur news. I keep wanting to call it ohmTown Daily News Show because that's what it was just 3 days ago, but we've changed the name to non sequitur news to better represent just how much we skip and jump from one topic to another in the non sequitur news rundown. Our other shows, right after this one, is going to be Reality Hacker, then Wanted, then Warcrafters. They're much more focused on their domain. So right after this is Reality Hacker, which focuses on mixed reality, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, etc., and the technology and kind of the world around that kind of a space, deep fakes and so on. And then Wanted is about gear and gadgets and lifestyle kind of related stuff. And then Warcrafters is about gaming, but with a greater focus on first-person shooters, sometimes real-time sims, survival-based building, crafting games, but a lot of it is also augmented with just gaming in general, but that'll be it. I'm doing the show really early, like I'm right on target, so I'm going to end the show now and take a little bit of a break, and we'll get the sentient AI online and we'll be back. The plan was to get this. Yeah, I think I'll be back at around 6:30, so be sure to follow us, and as soon as we go online, we start talking about the news, maybe 5 minutes before that. But like always, the sentient AI has notified me that I am slacking and I need to, I guess, inject myself into the front page. And I'm not going to refresh because I know that it's a hot mess right now. But that's it for today. We'll see you in a little bit. Be sure to follow us here over on YouTube. Be sure to download the podcast. Follow us over on Patreon. There's a Discord as well. I'm actually trying to integrate it all so that you can sign in to everything using either Discord or YouTube, or it used to be like that here at ohmTown.com, but I stopped it after constantly having to update. But anyway, stick around. See you soon. I'm going to go, no, I can't say that I'm going to go inject myself with Zepbound. But anyway, see you later, everybody.